Lovely. Okay, that's perfect. Right, so we're recording right now. So again, I'd officially like to thank Ismaila for giving me this opportunity of speaking with its members today, the first of a three-part series of webinars around the topic of remote teaching. I've been trying to support language teachers for the last 5 weeks, since the lockdown started. And I've been working night and day, more or less, using social media, doing webinars through the Association for Language Learning, as well as other organizations such as Linguascope. I've also been doing some international webinars for the British Council in Indonesia, for Italian. Well, I'm going to be doing some webinars with Italian teachers in Australia on Monday and Tuesday next week. I've worked with the Victorian Association of Teachers of Modern Languages, who I've worked with before as well. And I'm just trying very hard to support people. So just to be very clear, I'm going to be sharing this presentation with you. On the last slide, I have a QR code and a link to the presentation. We're also recording this right now. So you'll be able to get the recording. I will put the recording up on my YouTube channel, which is available via JoeDale100. And on that YouTube channel, you'll also see lots of the other Tilt webinars. Tilt stands for Technology in Language Teaching. I'm just going to check the chat very quickly. So Jess, I can see that your sound is fine. You can hear me okay. Okay, so if the sound is breaking up, that might be to do with your internet connection. I'm not sure. Can I just clarify with everyone if everyone is seeing my screen okay and it sounds okay? I'm using a nice USB microphone, so it should be fine. Okay, that's great. Thanks for letting me know. So as we know, this is the first of 3 webinars around remote teaching. You would have seen the program. I was delighted to see that 85, I think it was, signed up for this one. Feel free to sign up for the other ones as well. And yeah, and I just really hope that you find this useful. Just on a geeky point, I made this graphic using a tool called Adobe Spark Post, which is completely free and allows you to make what look like, in my opinion, very professional looking graphics. So it's called Adobe Spark Post. It works on the web as well as an iOS app and an Android app as well. Okay. So a little bit about me. I think you all know me anyway, but I was just to let you know, I was a languages teacher for 13 years, teaching secondary school level for 3 years, and then 10 years in middle school level on the Isle of Wight, which is where I'm living right now. And that was the middle school was 9 to 13-year-olds. And for the last 10 years, I've been an independent languages consultant. And normally I'd be traveling all over the world, but at the moment I'm just trying to do that from my study on the Isle of Wight. My Twitter handle, as I'm sure you know, is @JoeDale, and my email is joedale@talk21.com. So if there's anything that you want to ask me about the session that we're doing today, then feel free to do so. Anything to do with technology and language learning, or particularly in the context of remote teaching. Okay, right. I see I'm still letting some people in. Never mind, it's all good. Right, so this is what we're going to try and achieve in the next hour. It doesn't matter if we don't do everything. The most important thing is that we work at an appropriate pace, and do let me know if I'm going too quickly or there's things you're not sure about. Clearly, if there's a technique that I've demonstrated, but you haven't quite understood or you want me to do it again, remember that I am recording this session, so it means that you will be able to watch it back. But if there's anything you want to sort of clarify urgently, that's fine. But if we've got time, we'll do a bit of Q&A at the end as well. But this is just, in this session, what we're going to try and achieve. Okay. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use a tool called Mentimeter. And I'm going to click on this link right now and go live onto my desktop and click present like this. And as you can see on the screen, there's the link I'd like you to go to, please, which is menti.com. So Mentimeter is where you create the presentation, and menti.com is where the students go, or in this case, you as attendees in this webinar. Can you go to menti.com and then put in the 6-figure code, which is 553879. If you've not seen Mentimeter before, it's a free tool which allows you to do polls and surveys and things like that. So in this present context of working synchronously online, I think it's a fantastic way of being able to ask questions, get feedback from students, maybe as a starter activity or halfway through the lesson to see how students are getting on. Oh, I see. Right. So if you want to go to a new tab, so if you have two devices, obviously you can go to your second device. If you're on the one device, then feel free to go to a new tab in your browser and then fill in the information. So you can then swap between the two. So you can see, well, if you want to just watch as well, that's fine as well. But the idea of this is obviously I'm sharing my screen right now, so you can watch on the screen. I can see that some people are able to post straight on. So I thought it's really important to start off with a question: how do you feel about remote teaching your classes? And clearly there are going to be some issues, some challenges, but hopefully most of you are feeling fairly confident about doing it. And if you're not, then feel free to ask for help, either from myself or from other colleagues who are more experienced who are in the room right now. So as you can see, these all this information is now coming up. This is what's called an open-ended question, whereby you have these little tiles that appear. And if I want to, for example, click on one of them, it will go a little bit bigger compared to the other ones. Or if I click on this one, for example, as you can see, experience have been very positive as well. Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, that's great. So it's just a really nice way of being able to get a feeling of how your students are feeling at the start of the lesson. In a face-to-face environment, it's great for, say, a starter activity to test prior knowledge. You can also use it for retrieval practice. You could use it in a plenary as well if you wanted to see how people are getting on, as an exit ticket. So you could ask the students to post onto the little tiles, and then in a face-to-face classroom, then they can leave the classroom showing that they've understood they've understood what you've been covering with them. It's designed to be anonymous. If you wanted them to put their names, they could do that, but it's designed to be anonymous. Another nice thing that we can do, I see my back aches, that's great. Another thing that we can do here is if I click on the cog, you can see that one of the options is change layout. So I can, for example, click on word cloud, and what will happen is it will then take all your expressions and it will then put them into a word cloud. And I can see that the most popular word here is the word like, which is obviously positive, which is great to see, as well as words like confident, enjoying, students, connection, things like that. And you can see how it's changing in real time as well. Yeah, so I can see that Laura's asked the question, is it easy to just go on to another question? It is, absolutely. Now, it's interesting because if I click here, on the right-hand side of this screen, there's a little arrow. So if I click on that arrow, what will happen is it will take us on to the next question. This is only the second question that we're having today. There's only two questions in this particular presentation. And I'm just doing this out of interest, really. What platform are you using to deliver your classes? If you're not delivering classes, which are best for you? I presume everyone is delivering classes. I would imagine most people are using Teams, but it'd be interesting to see who's not. So I can see Jess has asked, does it identify if someone put not in front of a response? It doesn't identify anyone at all. It's designed to be anonymous. So if you wanted to see who had done what, you wouldn't use a tool like this. You would use, say, Google Form or Microsoft Form instead. So within Google Classroom, are you using Google Meet within Google Classroom, or are you not doing video conferencing at all? Oh, okay, I see. Right, that's great. So I'll just give you another few seconds to reply. As you can see, what's happening is the bar chart's changing in real time dynamically. So visually, it's very nice, and it just copes very well. And you don't have to have a fast internet connection either, which is nice for this to work. Okay, so Jessica said, I mean, if you said I don't like it, does it only pick out like, oh, I see, right. If you want to have the expression as one term, then you have to write it all in one term. I think what's happened is you've put everything in, each word in a separate option. Maybe I'm not sure exactly, but I've certainly, many times when I've done Mentimeter, you can see a whole expression across. So I think that's probably what's happened, but I'm not sure. Yeah, great question, Andy, about naughty language. So there is a profanity filter, which I can show you in a second. But if the children use a symbol or what have you instead of a letter, then it is possible that things can get through. And annoyingly, you can't just right click and delete the word. You'd have to just go on to another slide. So just be aware of that fact. There is a profanity filter, but if things do get through, you'd have to just move on to another slide or just press stop. That's great, no problem. So as you can see, we've got a little bit of information about the sorts of tools that you're using and the how you're feeling at the moment. So I'm just going to click on the cog there. I wanted to point out a few more things. If I click on countdown, I can have a countdown from, say, anywhere from 10 seconds to 15 minutes, which could be useful for some activities. You've got hide results. So if someone was looking out the window or not concentrating on what you're doing and just wants to copy what their friend has done, you can hide the results to avoid that issue. You can close voting as well if you want to. There's lots of things that you can do there. So if I just click on the home option, and you'll see here we have your presentation here, Ismaila. So if I click on the export results option here, which is the blue arrow pointing downwards, you can see that for free, you can click on the PDF option. And when you click on that, what happens is it exports all the slides onto a PDF, as you can see there. So I think that's great. If it was a word cloud, if we'd chosen the word cloud option, you would have seen all the options, all the answers there, I mean. So that's fabulous. And if we click back here, if I were to click on, for example, your presentations and click new presentation, I could then create a new presentation. I'm not going to do that right now because I want to show you lots of other things. But if you go on to YouTube and do a search for Mentimeter, you'll find lots of tutorials. Okay, so the code for Mentimeter, what happens is when you launch the presentation, you click on the link or the presentation you've made, you click present like that, and then the code will automatically appear at the top of the screen. So all the students need to do is get used to going to menti.com and put in the code, and that's it. It doesn't take long to set up. It's very straightforward. Okay, thank you ever so much. I think that was a useful way to see how people were feeling to start off with. Okay. Right, now this is a quote which I came across a few weeks ago now, and I think it's a very powerful quote. If there's one good thing that's going to come from this whole situation, hopefully, is that those teachers who maybe have been reluctant to using technology in the past, maybe because they're being forced to use technology in the present context, their mindset will change as a result of that, and maybe see some of the things that or some of the ways in which technology can really empower learning and amplify learning that maybe they hadn't appreciated before. And also those people who are used to using technology, maybe they might feel, according to this quote, the limitations compared to what they could do in the classroom. And of course, I would love everyone to be in the classroom right now, but that's not the situation, unfortunately. So we need to make the best of the situation and just try our best, I think, to deliver as much content as possible during this time, I think. So I really like this quote, and the link to the article is at the bottom here, but I think this is a very important thing to think about the legacy once we all come out of our caves, as it were, I think. Okay, let's carry on. So based on that, the MFL Twitterati have been talking about a change in mindset as well. So I think what I will do on this page, if I can't see the link actually, interesting. Let me just press escape a second. Hang on, let me just go back a second. Oh, there we are. Right, okay. There we are. Right, so if I just go on to this tweet here, this is a tweet from Francisco. And as you can see, I'm now live on Twitter. As you can see, he's saying, would we see a boom in the use of technology in education after lockdown? Would schools use it as a tool to close the gap? For example, online intervention sessions, recorded catch-up lessons, etc. And what I like about this is the way in which all the replies are all talking, you know, they're all teachers. They're all talking about their context and how they see the change in mindset and what they miss and what they like about the things that they've been doing. For example, Adam is talking about the idea that, you know, he's missing being able to walk around the classroom and getting a feel for how his students are getting on. But he at the same time feel that having used the technology in the classroom, he's not maybe feeling as scared as he has done in the past. So I think that's an important point as well, that you know, this is real feedback from real teachers, which is wonderful to see. Let's carry on. So this is a document which probably some of you have seen already. I've been tweeting about it and sharing it in webinars and on Facebook groups and what have you. I'll just put it in the chat right for you now if you haven't seen it before. So it's is.gd/tilt Thurs Joe Dale. So this is the first Tilt webinar that we did, which is whenever it was now, 4 weeks ago. And essentially what I did was I put together, at the time, I think about 18 pages of links around remote teaching into different categories, such as getting started, world language teachers share tips on remote learning, video conferencing tools, screencasting tools, and what have you. So in the first section, that's where I've got the quote from that head teacher from the school in Rome, plus other general articles about online teaching. Then I've got some articles around language teachers, what they've actually shared with the community. If I just click on this link right now, I can actually show you what it looks like live. So at the top here, you've got my YouTube clip of my webinar for Tilt. And then I'm not going to go through the whole thing. This is now 32 pages, I think, long. And you'll see as well that top right of the screen, there are 23 people looking at this document right now. And every time I look at this, there's normally around 10 to 20 people looking at it. So you've got lots of links in the first section. You've then got lots of information here from language teachers. We go further down. You've got different tutorials on using things like Zoom, using things like Microsoft Teams or Google Meet. You've got a nice little hack there, which I've actually got in the presentation, whereby you have two devices, one of which is used as a document camera. So you just have to have the second device join the Zoom meeting. You must remember to mute the audio of the first device, otherwise you get awful feedback. But then you just prop up your second device. You then point the back camera, the one that's going to be better quality, at the paper notebook that you've got, and then you can then describe a piece of grammar or whatever it might be, or do some live marking onto the piece of paper while you're filming yourself, either individually to make some sort of screencast, or obviously live with the students and go through a worked example, which I think is a nice idea as well. Anyway, I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but you get an idea. I've been spending a lot of my time in recent weeks putting together this for language teachers, available completely for free. And I would really encourage you to share this far and wide with anybody that might find it useful. Okay, let's go back to my presentation and let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so these are the webinars I've been referring to. So the first one was about, as I said, about 4 weeks ago now. Essentially, the reason these have been happening is because of the fact that originally there was going to be a face-to-face event that myself and Helen Myers were organising at Helen's school called Tilt, the Tilt conference. And as with everything else in my diary, it was cancelled for the foreseeable future. And so we decided to, the obvious thing of actually offering online support to teachers, because it was very clear right from the get-go that that's exactly what people wanted and they were crying out for it. And so in no time at all, we were doing about 3 webinars a week, I think, if I remember correctly, to start off with, and also over the Easter break as well. And so far we've had Michael Williams, whose video is not actually there at the moment because he showed some names of students in the presentation. So we're going to edit that out. We just haven't got around to doing that yet. But this is Georgina Dorr, who's from the southwest of England originally, who's now working in Hanoi. And then we have Sandra Aktas from Wellington College, who did an amazing session all about Microsoft tools. So anyone who's interested in Microsoft tools, I would recommend looking at her presentation, as well as the 2 that Jane Bassnett did from Downhouse School. Then we had Lisa Cook, formerly from the BBC, now as a languages teacher in Derby, who's looking at screencasting. And then we've had a few other people as well since then. And all these webinars are completely free, and I've been encouraging people from around the world to check out the videos. The first one that I did has been watched well over 1,000 times, so it just shows how much interest there is, and that was over an hour-long recording. So yeah, available for free, and you can check them out on my YouTube channel, and then the link here is on the AWL London page, where you can find information how to sign up via Eventbrite. And in fact, tomorrow between 8 and 9:30, we've got a show and tell session. So if anyone wants to share 4 or 5 minutes of good practice of what they've been doing around remote teaching, that would be amazing. Now, I'd like to point out, if you are using Zoom, that, and even if you're not using Zoom, some of these ideas are very useful in different platforms. There's an educational consultant called Russell Stannard, who's also an English teacher as well. I know him through IATEFL and EFL circles that I mix in, and I've known him for many, many years. And he's has a website called teachertrainingvideos.com. He has lots and lots of videos that are on YouTube that are also on teacher training videos, and they're all available for free. And he's amazing, and he's been doing all these Zoom video tutorials recently, including a couple I want to point out. One is on Zoom security for educators, which I'm going to go into more detail in a moment, and also one around breakout rooms, which again we're going to try out later on as well. So if you're using Zoom, I'd really encourage you to check out these videos. He's also got some great ones about making the lessons more student-centered as well. He's got a great example of using Google Earth in a remote learning context. So yeah, he's fab. Right, so talking about security, and there's been a lot of talk about security around Zoom. So what I thought I would do is I would mention the updates they've added to Zoom recently. So for example, they've added this new security button here, and you can see that as the host, if you click on that button, you've got things like lock meeting, enable waiting room. So you would have seen that everyone was in the waiting room before we started, and that's been turned on by default now, whereas that wasn't there before. You can stop the students renaming themselves. You can stop the chat if you want to. You can stop the students from sharing their screen. And then if you click on the manage participants and you click on the invite button, that's how you send people the invite. But also if you click here, you've got some other options as well. And at the bottom here, you've got some links here as well about keyboard shortcuts. There are a few really good ones. For example, the Alt-M one for Windows or Command-Control-M for Mac will then mute everybody apart from the host, which is clearly very good if someone doesn't realize they've got the TV on or what have you in the background, or someone's having an argument or what have you. So that should be, these are some of the things which I think teachers need to think about to make their rooms as safe as possible. Now, in relation to that, I've spent a lot of time putting the next two slides together. What I did was I thought I would have, I thought I'd focus on Zoom, Microsoft Teams and Google Meet and ask the same question to experts who are using these tools, who are all language teachers, and these are all the responses. So just to be very clear, I've done 2 pages of this. So I just finished this earlier today, actually, for the presentation. And they've all been proof checked as well by the same experts who I asked, plus a couple of other friends I have as well. So if there are any mistakes there in relation to, well, you can do this in Microsoft Teams if you do this, this, and this, then please let me know and I'll update it. But I think I've got it all right for everybody. So as you can see, we've got questions like, can students join a session before the teacher? Can the teacher enable a waiting room? Can the teacher automatically mute students' audio upon entry into a session, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going to share this online later, and I'm sure that the community, as one says, will find it very useful. So if you do see any glaring mistakes, please do let me know, but hopefully I've covered everything that needs to be covered in relation to keeping these different video conferencing tools as safe as possible. Thanks, Rosa. That's lovely to hear. Thank you. Okay, let's carry on. In relation to safeguarding in particular, because there's been a lot of concerns from the teaching community around the fact that students can see into teachers' rooms, or teachers can see into the students' rooms, or the students can see into each other's rooms, and all the safeguarding issues around that. So this is a blog post by Teacher Toolkit, also known as Ross Morrison McGill, and he's put together a really nice post, including some official PDFs from Zoom. But a lot of these ideas will refer to any video conferencing tool about good advice that you could say pass on to your SMT, SLT about safeguarding. And yeah, if I had a bit more time, I'd ask everyone if they are allowed to do video conferencing, or whether everything has to be asynchronous, which is another question as well. But I'm trying to cater to everyone's context in relation to that. Okay. Right, something else which I think is very useful is what is referred to as the non-verbal feedback and reactions. So you'll see if you go to, in Zoom, if you click on the participants option, you'll see that it should say raise hand, yes, no, go slower, go faster. And if you click on the more option, it should allow you to give a thumbs up, thumbs down, a clap. The coffee one's quite nice, showing that you offer a coffee break. And then I can't remember what the clock one is now. I think anyway, it's probably time up now or something. So to enable this is something you have to enable. I'm just going to come out of the presentation and I'm just going to go to let's have a look. Yeah, so if I go here and I just go to log in, or I should be logged in already actually. I can just, so if I click on my account, this is actually Helen Meyer's account, and she's letting me use it very kindly. But I've actually got the pro account now. I've upgraded anyway. So this will be the last time, well, in this series of webinars, I'll be using this one because it's all been booked already. But as you can see, I'm in settings, meeting. And if I scroll down, it's quite a long way down. It will show me, can you see here? It says non-verbal feedback. So if you enable that, then all those different options come up. And a bit lower down, it has the breakout room option as well, which I've also enabled, which we might be able to do later on. So just to check that this is working, could you all go to participants, which it should be on your screen in Zoom, and can you just click on the yes option just to see if this is working? And what should happen is I should be able to see if I click on, I just come out of here now, if I click on manage participants, there we are. Yeah, I can see Anna has got a tick here next to her name. Yeah, lots of you have, that's great. So that shows it is working. So you could, for example, ask a question and then you could get the students to then click yes or no. So it's just another way of being a bit more interactive in your presentation if you're using Zoom. And then likewise, on your interface, it should have reactions as well. And that allows you to either clap or give a thumbs up. And when you do that, that will then appear on your screen as well. So there's just a few little non-verbal things that you can have, which is great. So thank you for everyone for doing that. Let's carry on. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to have a go at putting everyone in breakout rooms. Now there's 50 people in the room. So I'm going to create 10 rooms of 5 people each. The instructions are all here, but I think we should just go for it, shouldn't we? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to click on breakout rooms, which I've enabled in the way that I've shown you. And on the screen, I'm going to choose the number of rooms, which I'm going to have as 10. And I'm going to go for automatically. So that means that there's going to be 4 or 5 people who are going to appear in your room. And we're only going to do this for about 3 minutes, let's say maximum. So I'm going to click on options and I'm going to choose here 3 minutes. Okay, in fact, let's just make it 2 minutes just because we haven't got lots of time. And then after 1 minute, you're going to get a 60-second countdown, which will then allow us back into the main room. So with that in mind, I'm going to click open all rooms and you should now be transported into your different breakout rooms. So I'd love you to talk about how you're getting on with remote teaching at the moment, if that's okay. And I can join any of these rooms. I can click on join and I can go straight in. 20 seconds to go. That's lovely. So you're all coming back into the room now, I think, which is great. So another 37 seconds. I'm sure you enjoyed that. That was lots of fun, wasn't it? So the great thing about breakout rooms is you can clearly divide the class into different groups, and you can give them a task to do. You could, for example, have a slide with different activities for different groups. You can either assign people to rooms automatically, which is what I did. Thank you. I know it's only sort of 3 minutes, but it's nice to, for some activities, to break them up into different groups. Yeah. So the question is always, can you do this in Teams? Can you do this in Google Meet? So in that large document, which I've shared with you, welcome everyone back into the room. There are ways around doing this in Google Meet and in and in Microsoft Teams, I mean. So in that long document, if you do a find option for Breakout or Microsoft Teams, it's in that section, or Google Meet, it's in that section. Okay. So have a look at that. But Zoom does it particularly well, I think. So as I was saying, now that everyone's back in the room, what you would do is you'd say display a slide, and you'd have an activity for each group, and you could get them all to share their screen and talk about whatever it is that you're getting to talk about. But you could also get them to do a collaborative Jamboard, for example, which is a Google tool which allows you to all draw together, and you could have a different frame for each small group, for example. But I would recommend doing it automatically rather than assigning each student, because it would take a long time to do it that way. I have been in sessions whereby people had the different tasks, and then in the chat you then have to say, I want to be in room 1, room 2. But to do it that way, it just takes a little bit longer to then put people in manually. It's a lot quicker to do people automatically. So right. So Jess, again, can you prepare the groups for breakout rooms in advance? You can certainly pre-prepare having breakout rooms. I think the quickest way of doing it is automatically. I think you have to do it manually. I think I'm right in saying you have to do it manually if you're going to do it there and then. You can't do it beforehand, but you can enable breakout rooms, so that's an option. What you can't do is, once you're in a Zoom, you can't enable breakout rooms unless you come out of the meeting and do it. But you can, as I've done, have breakout rooms always available within Zoom, because that's just a lot easier. Okay, brilliant. Thank you ever so much for that. That's lovely. So if everyone would turn their webcams off again, if that's all right, and I'll go back to sharing my screen, which is here. There we are. Lovely. Thank you ever so much. Excellent. Right. So let's close that. If you watch this 12-minute clip, I've given the link at the bottom there on the slide that Russell has done. It's he goes through everything about breakout rooms, and you'll all be doing breakout rooms in no time at all, I'm sure. Fantastic. Right. So I wanted to point out as well, here are a couple of the webinars that we've had recently. Sandra and Darren, particularly referring to how they're using the video chat in Microsoft Teams. And then last night, Darren was talking to us about how you can use Google Meet and how you can set it up safely with privacy, all around the privacy issues and what have you. A lot of which I put into the document that I showed you earlier. I was going to show you how to do the video meet in Microsoft Teams live, but I think, considering the time, I think we're going to carry on if that's okay. I'm sure that's all very straightforward to a lot of you. This is the Zoom hack, which I've referred to already, so I'm going to move on from that. Right, I'm going to talk a bit about screencasting now. So when we're talking about the difference between synchronous and asynchronous lessons, one of the tools that a lot of people have been using is the idea of screencasting, which is essentially when you record your screen, which could be a PowerPoint, it could be a web page, it could be an article, it could be a Google Doc, for example, or Word document, and then you can record your voice, using some tools, you can draw as well. And you can capture the whole thing as a video clip, which either could be saved automatically to, for example, to Google Drive, to Microsoft Stream. In the case of Loom, which is my personal favorite, it will go on to the Loom servers, but you can make it private. I wrote an article for the Modern Language Teachers Lounge, which is here. Okay, and there's the article. In fact, I can share the link right now, even though I've got it in the presentation, and I can put it in the chat for you. Like that, and then that should now come up in a moment. Sometimes when you're sharing the screen, you don't actually see the chat. I'm going to leave that for now. But here I go through all the different options for screencasting depending on what platform you're using, and I'm going to try and do a screencast right now in using Loom. So Loom is a Chrome extension, which is here. And to do that, I'm going to turn off my video, otherwise it won't work. So if I click on stop video, like that, and then if I now click on Loom, like this, you can see that bottom left of the screen, I'm now in this nice little circle, and I can either choose to record my screen and camera, which is what I'm going to do, the full desktop, or screen only, etc. If I click on the show advanced options, then there's some other things here. If you apply for a pro account, which you can for free as an educator, there's no limit to it, you can use it for as long as you want, then you also get access to a drawing tool. If you want to have a drawing tool in this type of tool, I would recommend using Screencastify, which is very similar. So we're good to go. If I now click start recording even, I then select the screen I want to share, and now I get a 3-second countdown. So now I'm recording my voice. I can now be pinpointing. I got interesting. Okay, typical. I had a recording error. Normally that would work fine. I think it's just because of the fact I'm sharing. So you just have to believe me. What will happen now, we'll record the screen. You can then click copy link and put the link in the chat. Or you can download the video that you've done or delete it. If you go to link sharing, you'll see that you can make your link private or public. And it's just really fantastic tool. I'm sorry that didn't work right there and then. When I've done this before in Zoom, it's been fine. But hopefully that's given you a good idea of what you should be doing, if that's okay. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I think I've let everyone in the waiting. There doesn't seem to be anyone that says they're in the waiting room. But can you ask them to do that again, Stephanie? And I'll let them in with my pleasure. Okay. So hopefully that's giving you an idea of how. Okay. Hopefully that's giving you an idea of how Loom works. And I'm sorry that didn't work right. Let me just give it one more try. Actually, let's just go back to. Let's have a look. If I go back here and click Loom again, it'll probably crash again. But let's just give it a go. So start recording. Share screen. Let's see. Okay, so now, as you can see, what I'm doing is I'm talking over the top of my screen. I can then be describing what's happening in the text. This could be a Google Doc. I could be highlighting the text. I could be, okay, it's not going to work. Never mind. You have to just believe me, it does work. Right, let's carry on. But the idea of that is to give you a flavor of how to do a screencast. Not ideal maybe when you're video conferencing at the same time. So just be very clear then, you've got the icons here. You've got Loom, Screencastify, and Screencast-O-Matic. They're all very similar, but my personal favorite is Loom, although I really like the drawing tool in Screencastify as well. Okay, so let's carry on. So screencasting in languages, I thought I'd put some examples of real teachers talking about how they're using it. So as you can see here, we've got Ms. Egan from Ireland saying, using Loom to walk students through a sample answer, saves time in class, promotes autonomous learning and sense making, and allows for a flipped classroom. Cannot recommend this tool enough. And what I particularly like about this particular quote or tweet is that at the bottom there, as you can see, Loom have replied themselves saying, love this, so glad we can be useful for your class, which is just brilliant, the power of social media. And then on the right-hand side, we've got Ms. Grice, MFL, who's in her first year of teaching, saying, used Loom for the first time yesterday. Thanks for the tip, Joe, and was surprised how easy it is to use. Definitely recommend it for anyone teaching from home. And Rachel says, how does this compare to Screencast-O-Matic? I've been using this one so far. So this is, again, typical of sort of the back and forth conversation that we see all the time on Twitter. Can't compare because I've only used Loom, but it's so simple. The kids really like it. Only downside is it can take a little while to edit your videos, but I really rate it overall. I'll have a look. Thank you. So that's just lovely. And I love the way that teachers are helping each other out all the time at the moment. It's just very heartwarming and great to see. Right, Google Forms. Now, this is a conversation which I had with a Malaysian teacher called Andres. And as you can see here, what he's doing is he's making a Google form and he's using it as a way of formative assessment. I'll be doing more of this later on in the next couple of webinars around formative assessment, but I thought I'd pinpoint this one to start off with. So what he's doing is he's putting a video from YouTube into his form, and he's then creating some questions and getting it to be marked automatically, which I'm going to show you how to do in a moment. He's also using Edpuzzle, which also allows you to take a YouTube clip and put markers in the clip, so that when the playhead gets to those markers, a question will come up, which could be short answer or multiple choice, etc. And then the students then have to answer that question until they can, so that they can then move on to the next part of the video. And then he's also using quizzes, which has been around for quite a long time. It's similar to Kahoot, but recently they've added the audio recording option for a question, which admittedly is only 10 seconds per question, but it means you could create a remote listening comprehension if you wanted to. And I actually demonstrated this live with about 700 English teachers from Indonesia earlier on this week, and it seemed to work really, really well. So I had 5 different questions. They had 5 different question types. They all listened to the audio and then were able to respond in real time on the screen, which was just incredible. So with that in mind, I'm just going to show you quickly now how you can make a simple Google form. So if I click on the plus icon, and a little trick as well, if you put in forms.new, this works with anything around G Suite. So if you put in docs or doc.new, slides.new, it creates a new document or form automatically. So as you can see here, that's literally exactly what I've just done. So it's just docs.new, form.new. It's incredible. So if I do a very simple self-marking vocab test, so just going to go for something very simple, I would always recommend for the first question that you say, what is your surname? And the reason for that is it will help you to reorder the answers so that the students are in alphabetical order, which will then match your mark book. If I now click on short answer here, and I click on required questions, so they must put their name in, otherwise they can't complete it. There's other ways around this as well, whereby if you click on responses, not responses, you click on settings, and you can demand, that you collect the email addresses. That's fine if you're working in a school where everyone's using the same. If it's a G Suite school, and you can do something similar in Microsoft Forms as well. So if I just click duplicate, and again, if you go onto YouTube and do a search for how to do a Microsoft quiz or Microsoft or Google quiz, then that'll be straightforward. So what is your first name? Again, I'm going to go for short answer and duplicate that as well. And now we're going to do the first proper question. So I won't make this a required question. It's just a very, very simple one. And obviously you could write, harder ones if you want to do, what is the French for a cat? So very difficult question for everyone. I'm going to choose short answer, and I'm then going to do duplicate. And then I'm going to do what is French for a dog. Duplicate. What is the French for a rabbit? And then finally, what is the French for a horse? Like this. Okay, right. For the last one, I'm going to make it multiple choice. So I click here, and then I'm going to put in different answers. So I'm going to put in I know I'm doing this in the same order, but it's just showing how it works. Right. So and then okay. Now, In order to tell the form what the correct answers are, what you do is you click on the cog up here and you click on where it says quizzes and you assign this as a quiz like that. And then you click save. And you'll notice now that, for example, what is the French for a cat? If I click on that, it now says answer key here. So I click on answer key and I put in the correct answer. I'm going to write in un chat, but I could write chat. And I could also put chat with a capital C, etc. But I'm just going to leave it like that for now. And I'm going to click mark all other answers as incorrect. And don't forget to put in the number of points for that particular question. Then you put done. Then you carry on in the same way with the other ones. So again, here, I put in, it's not letting me, that's right, answer key. Right, okay, so there we are. Right, so then we put in chien, like that. So I'm not going to put in chien, you get the idea, because obviously time is of an essence. And then same here, answer key, put in un lapin. And then finally, make sure I put the points there. Finally, we click done. And then here, we put in the correct answer, which is that one, answer key, click un cheval, give it a point. And you get the idea. So if there's like a right or wrong answer, it's fine. If it's like an open-ended answer, you'd have to mark that manually. And that's it, simple as that. So then all I have to do is click the send option here, click on the link, click shorten URL. Well, you don't have to do the shorten URL, but I've just done that anyway. And then I just need to put that in the chat for you. So if I click on the, in fact, I can't see the chat right now, so I'm just going to click stop share. And then I'm going to put in the link. So just very quickly, can you just answer that for me, please? And then I'll show you then how it changes in real time. So let me click on share screen again. Go back to here and share and then cancel. Okay, so I just give you a second or two to fill in the form. I'm hoping everyone can see the form okay. Let's see if we get any responses, and then I'll show you how to export the results, if that's all right. So this is a really nice way of doing some formative assessment, vocab test, and it's all self-marking. So that's really nice as well. So no responses so far. Let's see. As I can't see the chat, it's very annoying. Actually, let me just click. Can't see the link. Okay, I'm very sorry. I've sent it to Tim privately. That's one thing about Zoom. It can be a bit annoying in the way that I think I've sent it to everyone. And in fact, I've sent it to Tim. So I apologize, Tim. I've sent you that link. I've now put it into the chat so everyone can see it now. If you could, if you could then click on that. For some reason, when you shade the screen, the chat doesn't come up straight away. So if you could fill in that form for me very quickly. Hopefully everyone can see the link now. And I will share my screen again, and then I'll be able to see all your lovely answers coming in. Right, so right, I can see that someone's asking a question about basically, can you have breakout rooms in Teams? If you look at that document I've shared with you, there's a teacher there who suggests a way of doing it. Essentially, you're making private channels. I think that's what's happening. But check that out. It might be, if you want to use breakout rooms, you just use Zoom for that particular option, if it's not possible or not easy in Teams. Okay, so I just put let me put that in the okay, I'll just put that in the chat again. So it's is.gd/tilt Joe Dale. It might be that I didn't put it in the chat for everyone, just to one individual person. So let's go back here, and I can see I've got 13 responses, which is lovely. So as you can see, I can see who knows their pets well in French, like that. And then if I want to export the results, can you see you've got the little icon there for the Excel or the Google Sheet. So you click on that and you click create. And then as a result of that, you'll generate a new tab and all the answers are there. I'm not suggesting you would show that to the students, but you get the idea of how that would then work. So that's Google Forms self-marking vocab tests in Google Forms, and we've got another few minutes to finish off with. So I think we'll leave this one No, let's just go for it. Let's just go for it. This is okay. This is fantastic. So let me just click exit, and I'm just going to show this live. Okay, so this is another way in which you can have an interactive experience within your whiteboard session, so within your video conferencing session. So as you can hopefully all see, it says whiteboard.fi. I'm going to click on new class, and I'm going to put in my name and click create new class. Okay, and then as you can see on the screen, it says this link, which I can share with you right now, like that. Will it come up though? Well, hopefully you can put that in anyway. If I, okay, let me click stop share, and then I will then paste it in. And then there we are. So if you could click on that link for me, please, and then I'll explain how it's going to work. So if I go back to here, like that, and what I'm going to do as well is on my iPad, I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to act like an attendee as well. So you just go to whiteboard.fi and then / and then the code. And I'd like to draw a picture right now about how you're feeling about remote teaching. That's the idea. So the code is V96. And there we are. You put your name in, you tap join whiteboard, and then on the screen, you can then draw a picture. I've just drawn a heart, and hopefully that will appear on, there we are. That's appearing on the screen now. So you can see, there we are, that's lovely. So if I, for example, click on Sarah's one, that will now go larger. Sarah can carry on drawing. If you're happy to do that, Sarah, you can carry on drawing, Sarah, and then I can see that changing in real time, which is a very cool feature. There we are. And if I had a screencasting tool, in fact, I did that this morning. I posted a YouTube clip of how to do this. I was actually recording my screen using Screencastify, and it was working a treat. So let me just see if I can do this now, actually. Let's see if this works. Right, so if I click here, and can you see I've got my drawing tools? I'm going to click record like this, and I'm just going to go back to here. There we are. And I'm going to just click on this one here. Oh, it's moving down. Let's just see if this works. Right, if I click here, right, so I'm recording the screen right now. So sorry, again, feel free to carry on drawing. I'm clicking on the drawing tool, and what I'm doing is I'm interacting with you in real time, and everything's being recorded. So you can see my webcam there, you're drawing, so I could be giving you instructions on what I want you to add in the target language while I'm giving you drawing feedback as well as spoken feedback. And I can now press stop recording and stop. And what will happen now is that's the video. If I press play, let's just see if this works. Right, let's see. This one here. Oh, let's press play again. Hang on. There we are. This one here. Oh, it's moving down. Let's just see if this works. Right. If I click here, right. So I'm recording the screen right now. So sorry, again, feel free to carry on drawing. I'm clicking on the drawing tool, and what I'm doing is I'm interacting with you in real time, and everything's being recorded. So you can see my webcam there, you're drawing, so I could be giving you instructions on what I want you to add in the target language while I'm giving you drawing feedback as well as spoken feedback. And I can now press stop recording, and there we are. And then if I go to the chat, if I just click stop share again, and I can post that link that I've just done in the chat. So if you wanted to, I'm not suggesting you do right now, you could then watch that link, that video back in Screencastify, which is also a link you could put in comments in a Google Doc or in the Google Slides or what have you. So Screencastify is really nice if you're working in a Google environment. Right, so let's go back to here, go back to my presentation, which is here. So hopefully that's giving you a feel for how that works. And the final thing that you can do as well is, as there's not an easy way of exporting all your pictures in one go, hopefully you like whiteboard.fi. I wrote a blog post about this on the Facebook group I mentioned earlier, which I put on the slide. If I click the three dots here and I click print, I've installed what's called Qt PDF Writer. And what that allows me to do is that instead of printing off something with paper, I can click print, and that will now turn what would be a paper printout into a PDF. So what will happen in a moment, it takes a while to appear, a little dialog box will come up and it will allow me to save the results of what we've got here as a PDF. I don't know why that's not appearing straight away, but you have to just believe me. It will do in a moment. And there we are. So let's go back to here and present. And we're just about wrapped up. So there we are. Oh, just a thought as well. Obviously, if you would like me to come, oh, there we are. Let's click save. If you'd like me to come to your department, virtually speaking, of course, and help you with anything around remote teaching, as well as these other two ISMLR webinars that are going to be happening the next 2 Fridays, then let me know. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to support you individually or as a department. And if you'd like the presentation, here it is. Just go to is.gd/ISMLR1. Next week will be ISMLR 2, ISMLR 3 the week after. And thank you so much for listening. And we will have some time. I'm more than happy to stay on for a little bit longer and answer any questions that you might have. But I just, I can see the chat now. That's great. So I'm just checking if there's anything else that's in the chat. But hopefully that's giving you some ideas about how you can deliver lessons remotely, either synchronously or asynchronously. Don't forget, all of this is being recorded. So I'm going to put it onto my YouTube channel, probably today, in fact. And I will make sure that you've all got it as well. And if you've enjoyed this one and you want to come back for more next Friday, we're going to be looking at Padlet and Flipgrid and other whiteboard tools as well. But I really wanted to show you whiteboard.fi because it's so useful. And people on Twitter have been talking already about how they've been using it in their classes. So it's always nice to have a tool when you don't have to register for it. You can just get on with it straight away without having to create an account. Thank you ever so much for the feedback. That's really lovely. Oh, that's really fantastic. Oh, you want me to go back to the cheesy picture? Okay, I'll go back to the cheesy picture. There we are. Just to let you know how I made this, I've used a tool called remove.bg, which I can demonstrate in another session. Remove.bg, which removes the background of any photo, including a human being or an animal or what have you. I put that into Keynote on my iPad. I added a speech bubble. I exported, or I used what's called Magic Move to make that effect. I exported it as a video, and then I put it into an app called Image Play, or IMG PLAY, to turn it into a GIF. You can export it as a GIF in Keynote, but there was a few glitches on the image, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I thought doing it this way was better, and I'm really delighted with the results. So if you want to know how to do that, I've actually written a guide which I can send to you on Twitter, etc. A step-by-step guide on exactly how to do this as well. So there we are. Anyway, I better go back to the QR code, just make sure everyone's got it. And if there's anything else you'd like to know about anything that I've gone over, feel free to contact me. Also go onto YouTube and do a search for any of the tools. There'll be how-to guides on how to do that. And oh, do you mean the link to the guide? I haven't got it with me right now, but I can certainly put it on Twitter, or I can make sure that I include it. Well, actually, what I can do is I can add it into the presentation, which will then, because obviously you'll have access to this presentation live, so I can just add to it. So I'll do that if that's okay. Yeah, that's a great question, Kath. So how can we test our students, not just multiple choice questions, but block test and essays, be sure that they do not cheat? That is a real challenge. This was a discussion I had with my friend Francois Stolder, who I mentioned at the beginning when everyone was coming in the room. So you can do things like, I suggested you could use something like Socrative, which allows you to have a teacher-paced quiz, which could be short answer or multiple choice, etc. And then as for each question, you can have an image, and that image could be your reading comprehension text. And if you do that, then you can choose how long the students have to answer each question. So each question, you'd have the same image, and you can control that as the teacher. And that would mean that they shouldn't really have enough time to use, for example, Google Translate, but you'd have to be watching them all the time while they were doing that. But if you're talking about a summative assessment for writing an essay, I don't really think that's possible in a remote learning context without ensuring they don't cheat. So I'm sorry not to give a solution. I pride myself into trying to give solutions, but I don't think that that's an option. If you know of an option that will work, I see Steph Hess has talked about Draftback. That's a Google tool which allows you to go back and see all the changes. Yeah, that would be that's something that certainly you could explore. But there we are. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now, if that's all right. If everyone wants to turn on their webcams, and if you'd like to turn on their microphones, feel free to ask me any other questions. But if there's anything else you want to put in the chat right now, then I'm more than happy to stay on. We are just about an hour now, but if you want to ask me anything else or what have you, but I sincerely hope you found that useful, and hopefully it's given you lots of ideas, and hopefully it wasn't too overwhelming. I know that I speak quite quickly, but you're going to have the recording, you've got the presentation, and so yeah, let's just support each other and get us through this. So I don't know if anyone wants to come on the mic and thank everyone for coming along, but it's been a real pleasure, and I'm looking forward to next Friday already. Thank you.
Hi, Joe. It's Mark Goodwin here.
Hi, Mark. Lovely to hear from you.
Thank you so much for that. It was super useful. Fantastic.
Good.
Thank you. And thanks for everybody else for being here. I just wondered if you had any particular tips for listening, because my department's been passing on that's been the most difficult skill to embed in the Microsoft Teams that we're using.
Yeah. So I've actually written a blog post, a very, very long blog post all about this, which I will find for you right now, if that's okay, if everyone's happy to hang on. So I'll go on to Twitter and I'll do a search for Joe Dale listening and speaking, because essentially it took me about 2 days to write this, and it pulls together it pulls together all my thoughts on different platforms on how to do this. So I will go back to the chat, and there it is. So that's a very long, comprehensive blog post, and it goes through lots of things I've been running in training for many years now, on using different tools which are device agnostic, such as SpeakPipe and Vocaroo and things like that, as well as things like Microsoft, within a Microsoft environment, within the Google environment. You can now, for example, add audio into a Google Slides presentation, those sorts of things. Yeah. And it's been really interesting to see how different language teachers will be saying, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? People that you wouldn't have seen asking those sorts of questions before. Yeah. So that should be a very helpful guide, hopefully, on listening and speaking in the languages classroom.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions from anyone? Don't be shy. Awesome. Okay, so Mark, I don't know if you want to sort of wrap up or give a few final thoughts, or...
I just want to thank everybody for being here, and just to remind you that it's on next Friday again, same time. So, and thanks again to Joe. That was fantastic. And I think one of the nicest things was to see everybody chatting on the right as well, sort of taking inspiration from your ideas and advice, and then helping each other further with what's been working well for them. So that's what it was all about, for people to help each other and support each other at this, challenging time. So thanks for providing that inspiration, Joe.
No, you're absolutely welcome. Thank you. And maybe we'll do another breakout room next time as well. I know it was very short, but it was just to give you a flavor of how it worked. But I think that's a really nice feature of Zoom. Okay, I'm going to click end meeting, if that's okay. So when I click end meeting, obviously everyone will be removed from the room, and then I have to wait a few seconds, well, a minute or so, for the recording to be uploaded onto the cloud. I will then download it and I'll put it onto my YouTube channel probably this evening, and then I'll share the link with you via Mark or what have you. Okay, but thanks again. I really appreciate you coming along, and I look forward to seeing you all next week if you want to come along. Take care.
How do we find the link for next week, or how do we?
So yeah, good question. So the way I've set it up is on Eventbrite. It's I can't remember the exact. Oh, it's a multiple event, I think it's called. So in other words, you can go back to the same link that you had already. In fact, some people I see have been signing up for all 3 events all in one go, which is lovely. So I've been inundated by email notifications about the same person signing up for each day, which is lovely. And yeah, you just go back to the same link, and then you sign up for next week and the week after if you would like. So you'd be more than welcome. So we've had about 50 people today from about 85 people who have signed up, but hopefully next week we'll get more and we'll go from there. But yeah, you just go back to the same link if you haven't already signed up for all 3 days, and then you can sign up for next week and the week after, and it'll be a pleasure to see everyone next week.
Brilliant.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, I will click the end meeting button. I'm not trying to be rude, but that's how it works. So take care, everyone, and have a great week. And have a great weekend, should I say, as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.